One Less by Igor Rosokhovatsky. Originally published in a Soviet science fiction anthology in 1966, which was translated to English by Mirra Ginsburg in 1970 and called The Ultimate Threshold, named for another story in the collection. That anthology was republished in 1978. So far as I can gather, the Ukrainian author has only ever written short fiction, some of which have been serialized. Regarding his entire body of work, there seems to have been more translations into Romanian than English or any other language. Read by Daryl T. Smith II from my channel, Quasar Spectra. One Less. The truck came out of the gates and sped down the street through the puddles, raising fountains of spray. Pedestrians hurriedly shied away toward the buildings, and the driver bared his tobacco-yellowed teeth in a jolly grin. The front door closed with a soft thud behind Viktor Nikolaevich. He took 6 slow steps down to the sidewalk. A laboratory assistant ran past him, skipping 3 steps at a time. Viktor Nikolaevich smiled indulgently. There had been a time when he never noticed the steps either. He too had been one of the promising young men, and now at 49 he was still no more than a research associate who had not yet defended his doctoral dissertation. Viktor Nikolaevich slowly walked down the avenue, thinking about the series of experiments just concluded. Mikhailov's position, he said to himself, is certainly unenviable. All those months, all that work, and the results don't bear out his theory. Perhaps it's the right moment to offer my hypothesis? His glance slid down, and he halted for a few seconds. There was a dark strip of mud on the cuffs of his trousers. His wife would grumble again about his habit of shuffling like an old man. It was something he could not help. As soon as he started thinking, he dragged his feet. Viktor Nikolaevich shuffled on, and his thoughts returned once more to the laboratory. On that day it had been established that stimulation of the group of neurons known as Group K results in the feverish excitation of the entire organism and a 10-fold increase in strength. Why was it, then, that preparations that counteracted the stimulation of Group K failed to affect violent patients in mental hospitals? The laboratory workers had asked themselves this question, had discussed it at length back and forth, and found no answer, no way out of the apparent dead end. And only he, Viktor Nikolaevich, took another approach to the problem. He asked, whence came the 10-fold increase in strength? This question led him to a very interesting hypothesis. Clattering, the truck turned the corner to the avenue. The driver stopped for a moment and ran across to the store for cigarettes. He opened the pack as he hurried back to his truck. Settling down on the seat, he flipped the cigarette over to the corner of his mouth with a practiced movement of the lips, and the truck roared on. If I tell them, they'll probably laugh, thought Viktor Nikolaevich. It's too much like a fairy tale, like skipping 10 steps at a time. Yura will say, I smell something burning. But the second series of control experiments points in that direction, and if we are to believe the Indian professor... He stopped before a store window, admired a new television set, and sighed. Even if he bought it on installments, there would not be enough money left for his wife's vacation. After he defended his dissertation, then... But if he was to have no problems with it, he had better avoid getting the reputation of an idle dreamer. If I tell Mikhailov that the organism must have an untapped source of energy which is controlled by a specific nerve center, he'll screw up his eyes, bend his head to the side, as if preparing to peck, and say, "You think so?" If I ask, where does a man find superhuman strength at moments of extreme danger? How does it happen that a dying man who has been given up by the best doctors performs a miracle and recovers by the sheer force of will, of a powerful desire to live? Willpower, the desire to live, belong to the sphere of the spirit. They must find reserves, then, in the material sphere, in the organism. Evidently, these reserves are kept under the severest control and manifest themselves only at the most critical moments. In fact, our organism is like an overcautious general who cannot make up his mind to bring the reserve regiment into action, who keeps saying it is still too early until the very last opportunity is gone. But in violent insanity, control by the nervous system is weakened, the energy reserves are liberated, and the man acquires the strength of 10 from heaven knows where. You talk too much, Viktor Nikolaevich said to himself with a smile. There's not much sense in rushing in with arguments. Mikhailov won't listen anyway. He'll cut you off in the middle of a word and drawl out negligently, "That's philosophy, not science." And what can you say to that? I can show him the results of the experiments I carried out with Arkady. There you have science, not speculations. I can say, from all evidence, Group K controls the untapped energy reserves. This is why its stimulation produces the symptoms of violent insanity without mental disturbance. The animal twitches, writhes in convulsions, destroys everything around simply because the liberated energy seeks expression. And incidentally, we must remember that this nerve center is very difficult to arouse. Let us also remember the burst of energy which occurs in the organism at the moment of death, known as necrobiotic radiation. This is lost energy. Why not try to utilize it while the organism is alive? Just imagine the results. Extension of life, victory over any disease. But wait, Viktor Nikolaevich cried out mentally. What if the hypothesis should be offered as a fantasy? Say, as a science fiction story read in some anthology. And then, if I ridicule it, Mikhailov will, as usual, take the opposite side and begin to defend it. Tomorrow I'll do it. Viktor Nikolaevich's lips moved as he carried on his silent monologue, and a faint smile brightened his face like a reflection of distant light. Deep in thought, he stepped off the curb. The truck roared out from around the corner. The driver caught sight of the figure crossing the street. The brakes whined agonizingly. Too late. The driver's lips turned blue and twitched. The unfinished cigarette danced at the corner of his mouth. A crowd assembled instantly, long before the ambulance arrived. The doctor jumped out and ran toward the accident victim. A few moments passed, and the man in the white coat straightened up slowly. He is dead. The attendants laid the corpse on a stretcher. The crowd still lingered. An elderly woman pressed her hands to her heart, and a man tried to calm her. What can you do? One less. Eyes turned on him angrily, and he snapped, There are 3 billion people on Earth. Even if 1 million disappear, no one will notice. He was in a hurry to get to the clinic for treatments. The doctors had not told him that his illness was incurable and that he had very little time left to live. No one could know as yet that there was, after all, a way of curing his disease by liberating his untapped reserves of energy. And the one man among the 3 billion inhabiting the earth who knew how to do it was no longer there.